Have you ever wondered how the world's fourth most populous country, a sprawling archipelago of over 17,000 islands, fought for its freedom? This is the epic story of Indonesia's long and arduous journey to independence, a tale of resilience, revolution, and the birth of a nation. For over 350 years, the islands we now know as Indonesia were under the control of the Dutch, known as the Dutch East Indies. This wasn't a partnership, it was an era of exploitation. The Dutch grew incredibly wealthy from the region's abundant natural resources, spices like cloves and nutmeg, coffee, tea, and rubber. This wealth, however, was built on the backs of the Indonesian people. The Dutch implemented a system called the cultivation system, which forced farmers to dedicate a portion of their land to grow cash crops for export, often leading to widespread famine and hardship. Local rulers were either sidelined or co-opted into the colonial structure, and any resistance was brutally suppressed. Life for the average Indonesian was one of poverty and powerlessness. But even in these dark times, the seeds of nationalism were being sown. Early in the 20th century, a new generation of educated Indonesians began to form political parties and organizations. They dreamed of a united, independent Indonesia, a concept they called Nusantara. Figures like Sukarno, Muhammad Hatta, and Sultan Syahrir emerged as charismatic leaders, articulating a vision for a future free from colonial rule. They used newspapers, speeches, and secret meetings to spread their ideas, slowly but surely awakening a national consciousness across the diverse islands. The Dutch responded with arrests and exile, but they couldn't extinguish the growing flame of freedom. Then, the world was plunged into chaos. In 1942, during the height of World War II, the Japanese Empire swept across Southeast Asia. In a swift campaign, they defeated the Dutch forces and took control of the East Indies. The Japanese presented themselves as liberators, fellow Asians freeing the region from Western colonialists under the banner of the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. They even released nationalist leaders like Sukarno from prison, hoping to use their influence to rally support for the Japanese war effort. However, the reality of Japanese occupation was far from liberating. It was brutal and even more extractive than Dutch rule. Millions of Indonesians were forced into labor, known as Romusha, working on military projects under horrific conditions. Food and resources were confiscated for the Japanese army, leading to severe shortages and starvation. Despite the immense suffering, the Japanese occupation had an unintended consequence. It shattered the myth of European invincibility. For the first time in centuries, a European power had been decisively defeated by an Asian one. The Japanese also, for their own purposes, promoted a sense of Indonesian identity and even provided some military training to Indonesian youth groups. This period, though incredibly harsh, inadvertently equipped Indonesians with the tools and the confidence they would need for the fight ahead. The turning point came in August 1945. After the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan's surrender was imminent. In the power vacuum that followed, Indonesia's nationalist leaders knew this was their chance, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could not be missed. There was intense debate among them. The older generation wanted to be cautious, while younger, more radical activists urged immediate action. They even briefly kidnapped Sukarno and Hatta to convince them to declare independence without waiting for Japanese permission. On the morning of August 17, 1945, just 2 days after Japan's official surrender, Sukarno and Muhammad Hatta stood before a small crowd at Sukarno's house in Jakarta. There, Sukarno read a short, powerful statement, the Proklamasi. It declared that the people of Indonesia were hereby independent. It was a simple declaration, but its impact was monumental. News spread like wildfire across the archipelago, through word of mouth and makeshift radio broadcasts. The red and white flag was raised, and a new nation was born in spirit. But declaring independence and achieving it were two very different things. The fight was far from over. The Dutch, seeing their prized colony slip away, were determined to reclaim it. Aided by the Allied forces, Dutch troops began to return to Indonesia, leading to a bitter and bloody 4-year conflict known as the Indonesian National Revolution. The newly formed Indonesian Republic, with its fledgling army and guerrilla fighters, faced a much better equipped Dutch military. The war was fought in the cities and the jungles. Major battles erupted in cities like Surabaya, where the Battle of Surabaya became a legendary symbol of Indonesian resistance against British and Dutch forces. Indonesian diplomats, led by figures like Sultan Syahrir, also fought a parallel battle on the international stage. They traveled to the United Nations and world capitals, pleading their case and exposing the brutality of the Dutch police actions. The world was watching. The United States, initially sympathetic to its Dutch allies, began to put pressure on the Netherlands to find a peaceful solution, fearing the conflict would push Indonesia towards communism. Other newly independent nations, like India and Australia, voiced strong support for Indonesia's cause. International pressure mounted, and the Dutch found themselves increasingly isolated. Finally, after years of intense fighting and delicate negotiations, the Dutch government yielded. At the Dutch-Indonesian Round Table Conference in The Hague, a momentous agreement was reached. On December 27, 1949, the Netherlands formally and unconditionally recognized Indonesia's sovereignty. After centuries of foreign rule and a brutal war for freedom, Indonesia was officially an independent nation. The transfer of power in Jakarta was a deeply emotional moment, as the Dutch flag was lowered for the last time and the Indonesian red and white was raised in its place, to the cheers of millions. Indonesia's successful struggle for independence was a landmark event. It became a powerful symbol of anti-colonial resistance and inspired countless other movements across Asia and Africa. Indonesia, under President Sukarno, went on to become a prominent voice in the non-aligned movement, championing the cause of newly independent nations during the Cold War. The story of Indonesia's independence is a testament to the unyielding power of a people united in their quest for self-determination. It's a reminder that freedom is never given, it is won. Thank you for watching. If you found this story inspiring, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into world history.